Hey guys, Brian delivers you the goods here, returning to you for this next album review, the one you've been waiting for. Sorry for the delay for this next album review. Hopefully you guys will enjoy it. For Make Them Suffer's self-titled album. Um, so I'm gonna discuss what I listened to for their self-titled record by Make Them Suffer, and let you know my thoughts on all 11 songs that I listened to. So let's dive into this album review. Now it starts with The Warning, which is an intro track. It's only a minute and 9 seconds. It leads into the next song, Weaponized, but it's still pretty good mixing wise and structure wise, and it has a good build up to get you going for what you're going to expect for the next track. So it's a 5 out of 5 for sure. Weaponized is a strong track. I really enjoyed Sean and Alex's vocals in this. Sean's screaming vocals are quite outstanding in this one. His death growls, his screech growls, screech screams, all that stuff. It sounds really amazing, and it works very well for the structure it's going for. So I'd give this a 5 out of 5 too. Oscillator was one of the singles for this record. I think it was the second to last single, if I remember correctly. But it was a strong song. It did drop a couple singles for this record, the first one being Doom Switch. But overall, 5 out of 5 for Oscillator. It has a catchy beat. It was one of my favorite singles back in August, and it's worth listening to for sure. Definitely check it out. Doom Switch was a song back in 2023, and it is a pretty strong track for how it sounds. 2022, 2023, somewhere around then. It was around that time because they were introducing the new pianist and backing vocalist Alex to the band. So I enjoyed Alex's vocals in this whole record, and mostly in the Oscillator and Doom Switch ones. But she really shines in a track that I will be talking about in a few minutes. But overall, Doom Switch is a strong track for how it sounds. For 4.5 minutes, you're in for a banger of a song. 5 out of 5. Man of God was a strong track. Even Alex's screaming vocals from time to time were really strong with her yelling screams. It did very well structure-wise and execution-wise. This track was a banger. It went really chaotic with this. They went really chaotic with this track with how it was sounding mixing-wise, and in a good way. So, Make Them Suffer really pulled it off with this last single they dropped back in October. So, 5 out of 5. Epitaph was a song that came out, I believe, earlier this year, in April, and it was a really good song. I really enjoyed this one. The lyrics, they came to carry us and all that. They came to bury us. They came to save ourselves for what we've done. Or whatever that Alex was singing. But it was really good and very catchy of a track. And I really enjoyed this one. This was a favorite song of one of the singles being my favorite. Oscillator and Epitaph are my favorite singles. Man of God is too. But it's like classic, Make Them Suffer with what you could expect them to make. So Epitaph is getting a 5 out of 5. It's a great track. It's worth listening to. Then comes No Hard Feelings. Definitely a different soundscape to it, and really good for sure. They're trying to blend different melodies and all that with this whole record, so they switch it up with some of their stuff with this record. But overall, you're going to be expecting a lot of good stuff from this record, and No Hard Feelings is one of them. It's nice soundscape with the overall melody, and just I really dig the feel of this track, and drumming, guitar work, melody wise, it's performed very well, and Alex's singing in it is pretty good, and Sean's screaming from time to time is pretty strong too. 5 out of 5. Venusian Blues is a 2 minute and almost 50-second track. It's pretty short, but I do like Sean's screaming vocals, but also his regular vocals, because I think Sean was taking over this whole track from what I gathered with listening to it, and I'm like, I'm impressed. This is actually really good. And I know he can do regular vocals, but with this track, this one was really good. And I like the melody to it. It's pretty catchy. So 5 out of 5. Ghost of Me is a strong track. Another great song that I enjoyed that came out in 2023. It was the second single for this record, but it was a strong single. They did tend to drag out the singles for a while, but I knew eventually they were going to hype it up to a record for this year, and I'm glad they did. When Oscillator announced this self-titled album, this was one of my favorite singles. One of them, but it wasn't one of my favorites, but it was still a strong track for how it sounded. It's classic Make Them Suffer, so you know what you're going to expect with this. 5 out of 5. Tether is pretty strong. I really enjoyed this one. Very catchy track. I don't know if it's my favorite, but it is pretty strong for how it sounds. So 5 out of 5. Small Town Syndrome is the closing track, and a great way to end this record. Very heavy for sure, and it closes out with a nice melody towards the end of it, with a very interesting melody to close the record. So it's a 5 out of 5. So overall, production, mixing, and execution wise, I think this album was worth the wait. It was really worth the wait. It is a very strong record, probably their best to date. I know their last album, How to Survive a Funeral, was a really strong record. This one I think beats it for sure, because I know they had issues with their last pianist and backing vocalist, Buka Nile, because she was, I guess, I don't know, convicted, or things came out about her being a man abuser, sexually abusing men. So it's pretty awful from what I gathered. But overall, I think with this new vocalist, Alex and Sean, they combined their vocals very well with this record. This album was very strong, their best to date, and it's worth owning on CD and worth listening to digitally too. This album's gonna be received a very strong score. In my opinion, I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. This is one of my favorite records this year, and close to the end of the year, actually. I'm surprised Make Them Suffer dropped a record close to the end of the year, which I'm glad they did, because at least we got something good for this Friday's releases. We got 2 good records that I really enjoyed. The Plot News Volume 3 EP, which is only 3 tracks, so you know what you're going to expect for the first 2 songs, but Spare Me was a strong track. But with this record, I was very enticed with how it sounded overall, and this was one of their best records to date, for sure. So a strong 10 out of 10, maybe, or could be the album of the year. You will find out in a month and a half if it is worthy of album of the year, but who knows? We'll just wait and see, because I have quite a bit of 10 out of 10 records that are going to be on that list. One of them is Ghost Inside, Searching for Solace, because I did enjoy that record. It took me a little time to get used to the record, but I do like how this album sounds. It is one of their best records, and definitely better than the Buka Niles series saga, even though she did sound good, but with what happened was what they had to make the decision to boot her from the band. I don't blame them, because that's pretty awful stuff that she did. So with that being said, 10 out of 10 for Make Them Suffer self-titled album. Hopefully you enjoyed this album review this afternoon, and thank you guys for watching.